Today on the Extreme Channel, we're doing a filler. What's that, Mr. X? Well, a filler is kind of like, when you're single and you don't have a chance to be with someone else, so you have to, take care of yourself? Sure, it's not as good, but it'll do. Just like this review. Welcome to my channel. Today we are looking at an older piece from Prime 1 Studios. This is 1/3 scale Scarecrow from their Arkham Knight line. What does all that mean? Well, here on the Extreme Channel, we look at a lot of high-end statues. And this one was made by a company called Prime 1 Studios. They made 1,300 of these pieces. 500 were the exclusive version, this right here, which we'll talk about later. And they retailed for $900. $900 for this thing. So Scarecrow is obviously a DC villain. He was actually featured in the Christian Bale Batman movies. He was the primary, or one of the primary villains in Batman Begins, and then he had brief appearances in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Now this particular statue is not based off of him. This is based off of Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight is a video game that I've actually never played. I do have a number of pieces from that line because I have a big 1/3 DC collection, specifically Batman stuff. And there aren't really a lot of Scarecrow statues out there, and this one is just badass. I do have Sideshow's premium format, so this is 1/4 scale. It's 4 times smaller than what he'd be in real life, as opposed to the 1/3 scale right here. And that premium format from Sideshow should ship any day now. This is one of the reasons I wanted to review him. Not only do we have that new piece coming out, but this is one of the few 1/3 pieces that I own that I haven't reviewed for you guys. So we're going to do a traditional review today. We're going to talk about concept, paint, sculpt, design, overall value, or does it have the X factor? But let's start with concept on this piece. But before we dive in, we're doing a few giveaways. The first giveaway, I honestly don't know what it is. It's a statue for sure, but we're right on the cusp of giving away a Mortal Kombat Baraka statue and an Unknown statue. However, to enter into those contests, what you need to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Further details will follow. So now we're going to talk about concept. Because I don't know the source material very well, I can't tell you if this is accurate or not, but I assume it is because there is licensing involved. But I can tell you what goes on with the theme, how badass it looks, so let's take a look at all that. In traditional Prime 1 Studios form, he is on a cathedral base. Now what I like about this is they've twisted it a little bit to tie into the Scarecrow. You have two different things going on besides the normal cathedral. They're all kind of rooftops that all the characters are on. First is you have what I assume is kind of his toxin or poison, those yellow lines running in between the brick and mortar. I like that tie into it. Second set of gargoyles, I don't even know what these are. If these are scarecrows, it almost looks like there's a noose below the chin. Dead zombies, they look badass. That's all that matters. So I like that they took it a little bit away from the eagle or gargoyle that they traditionally do on these. And as you move up, you see Scarecrow, and there's a number of things going on with Scarecrow. First, one thing you notice, he does have a leg brace, which I assume is accurate to the game, but he is dressed in Scarecrow garb. What's really cool about this character is even though he's a human, he kind of takes it to the next level. He's probably that guy that wins the award at all the Halloween parties. And you move up, everything is fully sculpted on this statue, which is awesome. And most of these are all in a museum pose like he is right here. He does have a slight action to him, and his little dress is kind of flowing in the wind. But as you move towards his belt and torso, this is where you see his toxins. And you see him in these canisters, these Ninja Turtle ooze type canisters, and it looks awesome. It's this dark orange color that I like it because it's kind of a tribute to Halloween, and you almost think of Halloween with this statue. But it looks like the chemicals running all throughout him, and it's unclear if it's actually running into him like Bane. I don't believe it is, but this is over his stitched up coat, what a Scarecrow would really look like, and he is wearing this gruesome, freaky looking mask. And it's not only a mask, but it's a respirator, so he doesn't get affected by the toxins. And one of the things you see in his right hand, he has kind of this blade weapon. And what I mean by that is Blade had a weapon where essentially he stabbed his victims and they got injected with the material. That's how he uses his toxins. And I love that. It looks really cool. Maybe that's what everything's hooked up to. But this guy is just freaky looking. I love it. This guy definitely looks evil. He definitely looks like a Scarecrow. I like how they encompass the base. I like the toxins running all over him. This is just badass, whether you know the source material or not. There's a few things on the back we didn't talk about, but we'll look at with closer paint and sculpt pictures, and it's a lot of the same of what's on the front, just a little bit less. But concept-wise, I don't know what I would change. I think this is an awesome representation of Scarecrow. Like I said, whether it's tied to the game or not. So concept, let's give it a 5 out of 5. You really don't want an action dynamic pose with Scarecrow. So I like that there's a little bit of movement to this museum pose as well. Now we're going to jump into design, and this is where you're going to see the difference between the 500 exclusive, what I have, and the 800 collector's edition. They were both the same price at $8.99. However, the exclusive edition had this extra bat portrait. Take a look at it right here. So this portrait right here does not go to this character. I love what Prime 1 Studios actually did with this. This goes to another Arkham Knight piece. If you wanted to attach this to the Batman Arkham Knight, it would show that he's actually infected with Scarecrow's toxins. And we'll do some close-ups with paint and sculpt on this. So while this isn't needed because I don't actually have that piece, I've never owned it and I never plan to, where I actually keep it is in Doomsday's hand. Check this out right here. Something a little bit different. I like to do that with some switch out heads. Or if you wanted, you could just set it on the base right here like he decapitated him after he poisoned him. Now with Assembly, I do remember that his torso, I believe, is a separate piece, and so is his lower dress right here. And one thing I don't like about it is those injectors right up there. Here's a picture of them. These are incredibly delicate. I think one of mine actually broke and I glued it together a few years ago. I can't even remember, and you can't really see it. But I love that it's fully sculpted. I'm not a huge fan of mixed media. I think it would have really played this down. Sometimes they do the bat cape as mixed media, and when we say mixed media, we mean fabric. So it's awesome that they didn't do this. But everything worked really well, fit together. So the design is extremely simple. So it didn't take a lot of complex engineering. And because of that, I expect it to be done well, and it is. So it does get a knock for the injectors being so delicate. No other switch outs. That could have given it a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and give the design a 3 out of 5 on this. And let's measure him really quick. One thing I really like about this piece compared to other 1/3 pieces, it doesn't take up a lot of room. He's 16 inches wide, and the deepest point is only about 9 inches. And then you're just under 31, maybe 30.5 inches on the height. For exact dimensions, go ahead and check out Prime 1 Studios website. We're going to do a video review for Scarecrow simply for the fact that there's a lot going on, and this being a filler, I honestly am saving time. Now this is more of a conceptual thing, but starting at the base here, I love how they tie it into the whole line. But like I said, this one's significantly different. Let's take a look at those differences first. You have, like I said, these are kind of like gargoyles or scarecrows, not gargoyles, but scarecrows with kind of a noose at the bottom. I like there's kind of this purple hint to the color, a little bit different. And then you see the orange not only in the cracks of the bricks, but the stained glass is a little bit of an orange. They have this small black sub base, some pipes coming out with this faded copper color. And then the bricks itself almost have kind of this green coloring on the gray. They could have used some more texture. Most of these have a Batman symbol on them, which I like how they tie it to that. And same thing with the top, a little bit darker color. I like how they still have the orange kind of fading off to a red right there. Here is the exclusive, the Batman face. So you have green eyes, and then you kind of see in his face the poison setting in. Would be really cool to own that piece and put it right next to it. But regarding Scarecrow, like I said, fully sculpted, and this looks great. There's a ton of detail in here. You know, very old clothing, almost stitched together, Scarecrow-like, some straps. You can tell he's not the most athletic guy. Some bandages. And the colors on this, you know, there's not a ton of different colors, but it really makes it pop and not too monotonous, which I like. The straps, very realistic. The buckles, the nice faded leather color on there. Let's take a look at his kind of his, I call it his dress, but his overcoat. This looks great too, stitching. And then this texturized brown and black blend of fabric together. Looks really cool. Almost a little bit of purple in that. His Scarecrow utility belt here has some pouches. Prime 1 is excellent with pouches, especially in their 1/3 line. The sculpt on them, they look real. His belt looks real as well, and there you start to see some of the hoses. Fully sculpted. And here is the poison tanks. These look great. They're coming a little more red on camera than the orange they are in real life. But I love the straps on these, this old rusted faded color. You can tell they used to be silver at one time. And then the coloring on the hoses, it looks like it's real liquid. I really like how they did that. And this is all on top of more hoses and his jacket that is completely stitched together. Here you see a little bit of what you assume is his skin, really nasty, but you don't know. And then the green fingernails. And let's jump to his injectors here. This looks great. I love how it's running up through his arm. They look like real glass vials. And then his hand's just deteriorating. Like I said, very Halloween, scary house type look on him. His hood completely stitched together. I like the folds in this. And speaking of Halloween, let's take a look at his portrait. He has the respirator canisters, but just look how evil this looks. Very, very cool. Those glass faded over eyes. His mouth kind of stitched shut. There's so much going on with the statue. The sculpt is alone is amazing. And then the paint is really, really well done well. And then here's another close-up of him spinning. So as you saw, they did an excellent job on this, and what really blows my mind is you can actually get him under retail, and I think the reason for that is the character just isn't that popular. But I'd go ahead and let's give the paint a 4 out of 5. It's not perfect, and mainly for the reason we talked about, that there's not too many different colors. I like how the few colors they had did contrast it well. Sculpt, I really like the sculpt on this. It's very, very impressive. Base could have used a little bit more texture on the blocks, like I said. Scarecrow is phenomenal. I think the sculpt on this is actually a 5 out of 5. It's very, very impressive. And I do remember I bought him at retail, but I have no plans on selling this piece. I'm not even huge into DC, but these Prime 1 1/3 DC pieces just make you want to get into this line and even get more into the comics, or in this case, a video game. But so does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? Does it wow you when you walk in? No, it doesn't. However, it does have some wow factor to it. When you look at the whole line of them, which, spoiler, I'm doing a room tour very soon and I've moved all these, you are impressed. You're kind of drawn to this guy, the detail that they did in here. So I think it's a 4 out of 5 as an overall statue. Very, very underrated piece, for sure. And I'm so glad that I actually did this filler review, because as I bring him out, he's just really, really impressive. So that's something you can comment on today. Go ahead and put your comment below. Which piece do you have that is really, really underrated, or that you recently looked at and you're like, damn, I forgot it was this good. But that's it for today, guys. Really appreciate you tuning in. Please hit that Mr. X logo if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. About 60% of you haven't. Check out some of these other Prime 1 Studio statues, because they're all just amazing on that playlist. Otherwise, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.